My name is Amelia Thompson, but everyone calls me Mila. I'm 28, and tonight a family dinner tried to repossess my spine. Mom plated pot roast like a peace offering, but her eyes were already negotiating. You know, Mila, she began, voice honeyed. Emily's been looking at apartments. The market is impossible. I nodded and kept chewing. Emily told me this herself last week. Fresh marketing degree, living at home, for now. I did the same after college, except I paid rent to use a corner of the garage and rebuilt a carb in the laundry room when the heater died. Dad set his fork down. The sound, metal on porcelain, rang like a verdict. We've been thinking, he said. You have all those cars just sitting in storage. If you sold even half, you could buy Emily a house. She'd be set. The room seemed to tilt. I looked at Emily. She studied her mashed potatoes like they contained a map out of this conversation. That's when I knew this wasn't spontaneous. It was rehearsed. I'm sorry, what? I asked. It makes sense, Mom said, slipping into the tone she reserves for decisions already made. You have more than you need. Family helps family. We let you use the garage for free when you started. $800 a month, I said, for 2 years. Dad waved that off. Nothing compared to commercial space. You've got an engineering job. $75 a year. The cars are a hobby. You could buy Emily a place and still have plenty. Mom's smile thinned. They're just things, Mila. I felt the laugh in my throat, hollow. They're my business, my retirement, Your obsession, Dad cut in. You're 28, spending weekends alone in a garage. When will you think about someone else? There it was, selfish. The word people use when they want your work more than you do. I turned to Emily. You looked up my cars? She lifted one shoulder. Mom asked. It's a lot of money to sit there. You're sitting on, what, nearly $2 million? And I can't even afford rent. It's not sitting, I said evenly. It's earned, managed, growing. And it's how I build wealth, slowly, carefully. The table detonated. Dad called me immature. Mom said I loved machines more than blood. Emily cried like senior year theater. Underneath the noise, a slow clarity clicked into place. They hadn't asked. They'd decided. I stood. I need to think. What's to think? Mom snapped. Emily needs a house. You have the means. End of story. It isn't that simple, I said. It is, Dad replied. We've seen the auction sites. So they'd researched my collection behind my back, priced out my hours like groceries. The betrayal stung, quick and clean, like a cut you don't see until the red blooms. I left before my voice did something I'd regret. The Civic's steering wheel was slick under my palms on the drive home. In my garage, the air changed. 12 silhouettes under track lights, steel and paint arranged like a choir. The 69 Charger RT, the 63 split-window Corvette, the 71 Hemi Cuda. Each one a ledger of weekends and winters, and the 14-year conversation between my hands and stubborn metal. They're just things, Mom said. My palm found the Charger's cool fender. These things had paid my tuition one gasket at a time. They taught me patience, taught me math, taught me I could be a girl with a wrench and a future in the same sentence. If I bend now, I thought, I'll never stop bending. I opened my laptop and started a different kind of build. New LLC, 5 climate-controlled units 2 towns over, redundant alarms, 24/7 staff. I scheduled transports for 2:04 a.m., varied routes, hired discrete carriers for the crown jewels. I requested a week of PTO for a family emergency, irony included. I listed the rest. New locks, cameras, new bank, new passwords, P.O. box. Footprints are for beaches, not for women defending what they built. At 2:17 a.m., the winch hummed, straps tightened, and the Charger climbed the trailer like a big cat into a safer cage. I drove with the radio off and the windows cracked, counting green lights. At the facility, a guard in a Navy jacket checked the LLC paperwork and didn't blink. Good. Let the name be forgettable. Let the work be invisible. By Friday, my home garage held only tools, compressor, and the Civic. It echoed like a church after the procession. I waited for regret. All I felt was weight redistributing to my own feet. Saturday morning, tires crunched in my driveway. Mom and Dad, Emily, Uncle James, Realtor Grin, Aunt Linda, and my cousin with her phone already raised. They had an emergency key I'd given Mom years ago. The door swung open on a square of cold air and a very empty garage. "We came to talk sense into you," Mom announced, striding toward the yawning space. Confusion flickered to recognition, then ignited into rage. "Where are they?" "Sold them," I said. "All of them, this week." Dad shoved into the garage like the cars might be hiding behind the compressor. Uncle James checked behind cabinets. Aunt Linda filmed, narrating like a courtroom drama. "You moved them," Emily said softly, and there was no weep in it now, just flint. "You hid them from us." "They're mine," I said. "I can store them where I want." "We're your family," Mom screamed, voice shredding. "How could you be so cruel?" "Cruel is demanding I liquidate my work," I said. "This is a boundary." Dad got close. Aftershave and anger. "You're going to tell James the addresses. He found a perfect house for Emily. 350. That's maybe 2 cars. You'd barely notice." "You mean I'd barely notice unbolting my own spine?" "You don't care if I end up on the street," Emily flared. "You live rent-free with parents who cook for you," I said. "If you want a house, earn one." That did it. The room exploded into names, tears, and shaky camera morality. I called the police because lines matter. Officers Johnson and Martinez arrived, calm, professional, unmoved by theatrics. They escorted my family out. On the porch, Dad spat. "This isn't over. Family doesn't do this." "Exactly," I said to the empty doorway. After, I installed cameras until the house could narrate its own heartbeat. New locks, deadbolts, window sensors, new bank, new passwords, the whole ritual of becoming unstealable. That night, I sat on the cool concrete in the quiet garage and let the day settle. My phone buzzed with unknown numbers, a swarm I silenced. Somewhere 2 towns over, 12 cars slept under sodium lights. People call them things. I call them the proof of a promise I made to a 14-year-old girl with a mower and a dream. I wasn't going to apologize for keeping it. The first few nights of moving felt like living inside a heist film, except no one else knew there was a prize worth stealing. By 3 a.m., my neighborhood slept under a quiet so heavy you could hear insects shifting on the streetlights. I moved the charger first, the most sentimental, the one Dad used to mock as that pile of metal you'll never finish. Watching it vanish into the dark on the trailer felt like escorting a part of myself into witness protection. By Wednesday, the Corvette and Hemi Cuda were gone too. I kept my routes irregular, headlights dim, silence absolute. At the storage facility, the guard waved me through, eyes half shut with boredom. Perfect. The less they remembered me, the safer I was. By Friday, my garage echoed like a confession booth. Tools lined up neat, oil stains like old battle scars. Only my Civic remained, my practical camouflage. I sipped burnt coffee in that hollow space, expecting regret to arrive. It didn't. Instead, I felt the strange, light-headed calm of someone who finally stopped explaining herself. That calm lasted until Saturday morning. Tires crunched outside. 3 cars. I knew the sound before I looked. Mom's SUV, Dad's sedan, and the silver Lexus belonging to my Uncle James, the family's self-appointed real estate prophet. A few seconds later, the doorbell rang twice, followed by a familiar, intrusive click. The spare key. I'd given it to Mom years ago for emergencies. "Mila," Mom's voice, falsely cheerful. "We came to talk sense into you. James found the perfect house for Emily." Her words collided with the sight of the empty garage. She froze, and I watched it happen. Confusion bloomed into realization, then hardened into rage. "Where are they?" she demanded. "What?" "Don't you dare." Her face flushed red. "Where are the cars?" "I sold them," I said too smoothly. "In a week?" Dad barked. "Don't insult us." They all swept past me. Uncle James opened cabinets, as if my collection could fold itself up and hide in drawers. Aunt Linda raised her phone and started filming, muttering, "People need to see what greed looks like." Emily lingered near the door, quiet, her expression sharp as glass. "You actually hid them from us," she said softly. "They're mine," I said. "I can store them where I want." Mom's voice cracked. "We're your family. How could you do this to us?" "To you?" I let out a low laugh. "You tried to take everything I've built. You researched my work behind my back." Dad stepped forward, anger pulsing in every line of him. "You're going to tell us where they are. James found a house for Emily, 3 bedrooms, good neighborhood. You'd barely notice 2 cars gone." "You mean I'd barely notice losing my self-respect?" Emily's face crumpled, but her voice was cold. So you'd rather see your sister homeless? She's not homeless. She's living rent-free in a house with two parents who cook for her. You've always been selfish, Mom hissed. Family helps family. But you'd rather sit alone with your toys than help your blood. I worked for those toys, I said, since I was 14. Every dime, every cut, every burn. Grow up, Mila, Dad snapped. You can't take these things to your grave. Good, I said, because I plan to take my boundaries there instead. The room fell silent, a vacuum of disbelief. Then chaos resumed. Emily burst into tears. Aunt Linda zoomed in with her phone like she was directing a documentary. My uncle tried to mediate, spouting about compromise and family legacy. I pulled out my phone and called the police. The dispatcher's calm voice cut through the shouting like a thread through fabric. 10 minutes later, Officers Johnson and Martinez stepped through my doorway, uniforms pressed, expressions unreadable. I've asked them to leave, I explained, and they refuse. Dad tried to puff his chest. This is a misunderstanding. Officer Johnson raised a brow. Then it'll be a simple fix. Everyone outside, please. Mom gasped like she'd been betrayed by the Constitution. Emily sniffled dramatically. Aunt Linda kept recording until Officer Martinez told her to stop. One by one, they filed out, muttering promises of, "You'll regret this." At the curb, Dad turned. "This isn't over, Amelia. Family doesn't do this." I met his stare. Exactly. When the last engine faded, Officer Martinez lingered. "Family disputes like this, they don't stop easy," he said. "Get cameras, change every lock, and don't underestimate what desperation looks like." I nodded, heart steady but hands trembling as adrenaline began to ebb. That night I took his advice. New locks, deadbolts, cameras that blinked red in quiet solidarity, new bank accounts, new passwords. By midnight, my house was fortified and silent again. But when I looked at my empty garage, I felt something new. Not fear, not guilt, freedom. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Then another and another. I turned the screen face down. The silence hummed like a warning I wasn't ready to translate. They didn't stop. If anything, the silence between calls just became the inhale before the next attack. The first week, it was phone calls. Dozens a day. Unknown. Private. No caller ID. When I blocked them, new numbers appeared. Sometimes I picked up just to listen. Nothing. Just breathing. Other times, Mom's voice. Trembling. Weaponized. "You'll regret turning your back on your family." Emily's crying herself to sleep. "You can't buy happiness with metal, Amelia." Then the texts began. Emily sent me pictures of homeless camps captioned, "This will be me. Thanks to you." Mom's Bible verses arrived in neat batches. Honor thy father and mother. Dad's messages came less often, but each one carried a different variation of disappointment. When that stopped working, they escalated. One afternoon, my coworker forwarded me a Facebook post. Emily's. A long, emotional monologue about a sister who chose greed over blood. She never used my name, but she didn't have to. Our hometown's gossip economy took care of the rest. My inbox filled with faux concern. Hey, is this about you? Maybe just help her out a little? Then came the video. Aunt Linda's footage from the day they barged into my house. Cropped, edited, narrated to make me look like a cold-hearted villain, calling the cops on my poor parents. Within 48 hours, it had 2,000 views. I started wearing sunglasses to the grocery store, not for disguise, but to avoid the pity in people's eyes. 2 weeks later, a knock on my door broke the pattern. A man in a pressed navy blazer, clipboard tucked under his arm. "Good afternoon," he said with a polite nod. "I'm a private investigator. Your parents hired me to recover some missing property." "Missing property?" He cleared his throat. "They said you have family vehicles stored off-site." I stared at him until his confidence wilted. Then I told him everything. The dinner, the demands, the restraining orders I was about to file. He sighed. "Happens more than you think. Families fight over money. I'll tell them I couldn't find anything, but they'll hire someone else." He was right. By the next week, 2 more investigators showed up at different times. One slipped a business card under my door. Another left a note pretending to be from my insurance company. I learned they'd called every storage facility within a 100-mile radius. That night, I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, staring at my dark house. They were circling me like wolves with family photos pinned to their collars. That's when I realized I needed legal teeth. Enter Barbara Chen, family law and asset protection attorney, the kind of woman whose voice could cut glass. I found her through a referral and brought her a stack of documents, recordings, and a USB full of proof. After 15 minutes, she leaned back, arms crossed. "They're not just harassing you," she said. "They're attempting coercion." Coercion? Emotionally manipulating you into surrendering your property. Classic. But the good news? You've documented everything. We'll file for restraining orders. Against my parents? The words felt surreal in my mouth. Barbara met my eyes. Against anyone trying to steal from you, whether or not they share your DNA. The hearing was brutal. My family showed up in coordinated colors, like a PR campaign. They'd even hired a lawyer, paid, I later found out, by cashing out part of Dad's 401k. Their lawyer argued that my cars were family assets, built using shared resources because I'd once rented their garage years ago. The judge blinked once, unimpressed. "So you're suggesting your daughter's private business belongs to you because she paid you rent?" Silence. The restraining orders were granted. 500 feet of peace. No contact, no third-party messages, no loopholes. When we left the courthouse, Emily darted toward me, breaking the order within seconds. Her voice was cracked and raw. "I hope you die alone with your stupid cars." The bailiff moved faster than I expected. She was arrested, spent a night in jail, and sentenced to community service. The next day, my house was quieter than it had been in months. But quiet isn't always comfort. It's an echo that asks too many questions. Thanksgiving came. I roasted a chicken in the toaster oven, ate on a stool by the workbench. I thought about the years before, Dad carving turkey, Mom pouring too sweet wine, Emily making sarcastic comments that now felt almost innocent. That night, I stared at the car's keys lined up on my desk like medals from a war I hadn't wanted to fight. And then, one call broke the silence. "Don't hang up," the woman said quickly. "It's Melissa, Emily's friend. She doesn't know I'm calling." "What do you want, Melissa?" "You should know something," she said, her voice trembling. "Emily's been lying to your parents. She's had a boyfriend for 2 years. David works in tech. They're planning to move in together. The house thing? It was her idea. She's been bragging about how she'd guilt you into paying for it." I said nothing. Melissa continued, softer now. "Your parents think they're helping her, but she's been laughing about it, telling everyone she'll break you down." The call ended, and I sat there for a long time, staring at the blank wall. Maybe Melissa was lying, maybe she wasn't, it didn't matter. Because at that point, I finally understood something my parents never did. You can love people deeply and still know when they've crossed into theft. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of day that starts quietly and ends up rewriting your whole life. The email subject read, "Feature Request, Young Entrepreneurs Spotlight." I almost deleted it, assuming it was another spam pitch, but curiosity won. Inside was a message from Nancy Williams, a local journalist who'd apparently been following my restoration work for years. She'd interviewed clients, found before and after photos, even discovered forum posts I'd made when I was 16. She wanted to tell my story. I hesitated. Attention had burned me before, but her tone was different, respectful, almost reverent. I agreed, cautiously. The article dropped a week later. The headline, "The Mechanic Millionaire, How 28-year-old Amelia Thompson Built an Empire One Bolt at a Time." It detailed everything. The 14-year climb from mowing lawns to running a small but thriving restoration business, the nights of ramen dinners and oil-stained notebooks, the meticulous work that turned scrap metal into history reborn. She even included photos of my projects, side-by-side comparisons that looked like redemption stories. By Wednesday morning, my inbox looked like a pinball machine. But for once, the noise was good. Collectors, investors, a small museum wanting to feature my charger, even a streaming producer asking if I'd ever considered doing a restoration series. For the first time in months, people were calling me for what I created, not what they thought they deserved. I was smiling over my morning coffee when my phone rang again. An unknown number. Normally I wouldn't answer, but something made me tap accept. "Mila." The voice cracked halfway through my name. "Please don't hang up. I'm at the police station. I'll be turning myself in for violating the order, but I just needed to say something first." It was Emily. "You have 30 seconds, I said flatly. "I got a job," she said quickly. "A real one. Marketing firm downtown. Just 2 weeks, but it's a start. And I signed for my own apartment. Nothing fancy, but it's mine." Silence stretched between us. She swallowed. "I saw the article. I didn't know how hard you worked, Mila. Mom and Dad always said you just got lucky, that the cars just happened. But you didn't get lucky. You worked your whole life. I was jealous and lazy, and I let them twist it into something ugly. Emily. No, she said, voice trembling. You were right about everything. I've been awful. I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to be like you. Then the line went dead. An hour later, the police confirmed she'd turned herself in. I didn't press charges. That night, I reread the article, not to admire it, but to remember. To remind myself that I hadn't imagined the years of grind, the nights alone in the cold garage with only the hum of machines for company. I had earned this peace. And karma, it seemed, had a slow but poetic sense of timing. Within days, the story spread across town. Everyone read it. My parents' coworkers, their golf friends, their church group. The comments flipped the old narrative like a table. Wow, she did all that herself? I can't believe her parents tried to take that. That family doesn't deserve her. Dad's boss called him in to discuss optics. Mom's book club quietly uninvited her. Even their country club temporarily suspended their membership. The silence from Florida was deafening. Then a call I didn't expect. Uncle James. Mila, I owe you an apology, he said. Your parents made it sound like you stumbled into money. I didn't realize what you built. You turned rust into gold. I should have known better. Apologies don't erase things, but they can sand the rough edges. I accepted it. Then came Daniel. He first reached out through my business email, a client inquiry. His message was neat, polite, almost painfully earnest. Hi, Amelia. My name's Daniel. I'm a product designer, not a car expert, but I've been following your restorations. I recently found a '68 Mustang shell I think still has good bones. Could you look at the photos and tell me if it's worth saving? His precision intrigued me. We met for coffee, ended up talking for 3 hours, half about cars, half about nothing at all. He didn't treat me like a novelty. He listened, asked smart questions, made me laugh. 2 months later, we were building something quietly real. He told me about his ex, Alina, a mechanical engineer who'd left their startup on bitter terms. We were bad timing, he said. She wanted the world in 6 months. I wanted to build it in 6 years. When my article went viral, Alina reappeared online. A congratulations message too long, too personal. Daniel showed me. You okay if I block her? You don't have to, I said. He smiled. I want to. And that was that. One Saturday, we drove out to see the Mustang from his email. It was rusted through, roof dented, seats torn to threads. But something in its frame, a stubborn, hopeful angle, reminded me of myself. She's a wreck, Daniel said, half joking. She's worth saving, I said. That night, we signed the papers and trailered her home. When we parked in my new shop, the light hit the peeling paint just right, and I swear the car sighed. I smiled. We'll call her Etta. He grinned. Etta it is. And for the first time since the chaos began, the sound of an engine, even one that couldn't run yet, felt like peace. 3 months later, peace finally began to feel ordinary. Not quiet because of fear, but quiet because it was earned. The article's echo faded, leaving a steady rhythm of work. My waiting list stretched 18 months ahead. Collectors, small museums, even 2 filmmakers wanted interviews. I said no to most. I'd learned that some things, especially peace, lose value when you overexpose them. As for my family, their downfall was almost cinematic. Mom and Dad retired early, or were encouraged to. Their social circles evaporated overnight. The country club froze their membership. Dad's boss told him it wasn't a good look, being in that article. They sold their house and moved to Florida, where sunshine couldn't bleach out reputation. They sent one final letter through a lawyer. You are no longer part of our estate. We wish you well. I didn't cry. I laughed. Because by then, I'd already buried the version of me who still wanted their approval. Emily stayed in touch with my lawyer, Barbara, mostly to confirm she was respecting the restraining order. Apparently, she was doing well. A year into her job, promoted, no calls, no messages. She was building something real this time. I was proud of her, quietly, at a distance, like watching a storm move out to sea. Daniel and I kept working on Etta, the '68 Mustang. She was stubborn, every bolt a debate. We'd argue over details, original trim versus modern safety upgrades, keep the patina or repaint. And somehow, every argument ended in laughter. Late one night, I asked, do you ever worry that we'll fall apart like all the others? Daniel looked up from the carburetor, grease on his cheek. No, he said, because you don't build things that way. You build them to last. He was right, but I didn't tell him that I'd learned to structure everything, love included, so it couldn't be stolen. The LLC paperwork, layered. The accounts, separate. The titles, ironclad. I trusted him, but I also trusted myself. That was new. One afternoon, his ex, Alina, texted again. A blurry picture of them at a car show from years ago. Remember when we dreamed of this? Daniel showed me the screen. Delete or block? I handed him the phone. Whatever you choose is your answer. He smiled, deleted the message, and handed me back the phone. Simple. No drama. Just closure. That night, we finished Etta's wiring harness. When the engine finally turned over, rough, coughing, then alive, the sound filled the garage with something bigger than horsepower. It was forgiveness disguised as noise. We sat on the floor, legs stretched out, oil on our hands, sweat on our brows. Daniel leaned against me. You know, he said softly, your parents were wrong about one thing. Just one? He smiled. They said these cars were just things. They're not. They're proof that you don't have to apologize for wanting something for yourself. I closed my eyes. Yeah, they are. I still visit the storage unit sometimes. Alone. The guard nods now. He knows me by silence, not by name. The cars gleam like trophies no one's allowed to award me. I walk the aisle, fingers hovering an inch above the metal, feeling the hum of what I built with my own two hands. They called them things. But to me, each one is a diary entry written in steel. There's the Charger, the first I ever called perfect. The Corvette, saved from a scrapyard and reborn. The Cuda, rebuilt piece by piece after nights that nearly broke me. Every dent I fixed, every dollar I risked, every night I slept on concrete, they're all in there, layered under paint and patience. Sometimes I think about that Sunday dinner, the night everything cracked open. If I'd said yes, maybe I'd still be the good daughter. Maybe the family text would be polite again, full of emojis and shallow peace. But I'd also be hollow. I'd have proven them right, that my work, my worth, my will were community property to be bartered when they got uncomfortable. By saying no, I didn't just save my cars, I saved myself. Because family that loves you doesn't demand your blood for their comfort. They don't call your passion an obsession just because it doesn't benefit them. They don't break your locks to steal your peace. Daniel asked me once, "Do you ever miss them?" I told him the truth. I miss who I thought they were. He squeezed my hand. Then build the family you wish you had. We did, not through blood, but through bolts and boundaries. On Saturdays, we host small restoration workshops. People come to learn, to touch metal, to understand what it means to create something no one can claim but you. That, I've learned, is the truest kind of family. One built on respect, not entitlement. Etta sits near the front of the shop now, polished but scarred, like she knows she was never meant to be perfect, just reborn. The other day, as Daniel packed up tools, I stood in the open doorway, the late light spilling across the garage floor. The highway stretched out in the distance, a ribbon of gold and freedom. "Want to take her for a drive?" he asked. I smiled. Always. We pulled onto the open road, engine humming low and steady, wind tugging at our hair. In the rearview mirror, the past stayed small. Ahead, the horizon opened like forgiveness. Some people think freedom is a destination. I know better now. It's maintenance. You build it, you protect it, and you never hand over the keys.